What if your next software application didn't need a front end at all? Imagine replacing the entire UI. Onboarding flows, user sign up, setting menu options, configuration interfaces, with just a few lines of code and a large language model. No React, no HTML, just pure functionality plugged straight into your AI assistant. Sounds like sci-fi, right? Except not. Today, we're breaking down the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, a new open standard that just might revolutionize the way users interact with software applications. You can think of it as an USB port for your AI. One plug and infinite possibilities. Whether you're a software engineer, an architect, or just trying to keep up with the next wave of AI tooling, this is the one that you don't want to miss. Let's dive right in. My name is Derick Chen, and this is BuildWithDC. Model Context Protocol, or MCP, is an open standard that was developed by Anthropic to enable large language models to interact seamlessly with external tools, systems, and data sources. Under the hood, MCP relies on structured messages to communicate between the client and the server. Think of it as an USB port on your laptop that allows you to access additional data and even applications. In this case, the laptop in the analogy is your preferred LLM client, for example, Claude desktop or ChatGPT. The connected USB devices are the MCP servers developed by individuals and corporations. It standardizes context exchange between AI assistants and software environments, allowing for model agnostic interactions, and is even client agnostic. Key features that make MCP extremely useful in enhancing your user experience with LLM client applications, including supporting reading files, execution functions, and handling contextual prompts. And the best part is that just a few months after its announcement by Anthropic, major AI service providers like OpenAI and Google are already embracing it. So why should you care as a software engineer or software architect? In my humble opinion, a lot of procedural and graphical front-end applications can be replaced with MCP servers and be built in half the time. Take the example of a weather app. Let's say you want to build a weather app from scratch and utilize public APIs that have the weather predictions already, so your users can get a weather forecast for a particular city. You need to spin up the front-end project boilerplate, then write a UI bit by bit, define the user journeys, make it responsive, localized to different languages, and then finally, you connect it to the API that actually has the data. If you play around with the MCP example by Anthropic for this exact scenario, it abstracts everything you need to do on the front end. All you need to do is to build a mini application layer, defining the APIs and tools that your users can access, user session management, and other additional resources, whether it's local or remote. And I literally mean every large language model client will be able to connect to your application as an MCP server. It doesn't matter if your target users prefer ChatGPT or Gemini. All they need to do is to configure and connect to your MCP server, and everyone in the world will be able to get a weather forecast just like that. In the MCP world, LLM clients like ChatGPT and Claude desktop are like our browsers today. Chrome, Firefox, you name it. They are the local applications that everyone will eventually install. Then, MCP becomes the hidden presentation layer in place of websites and mobile apps that we have today. Finally, we still keep our backend infrastructure for data processing, scalability, and management in the cloud. MCP does have tremendous potential to make a lot of traditional graphical interface applications obsolete. While there is an increasing shift in people spending time in chat-based interfaces, not everyone will prefer a chat interface for everything. Claiming that MCP will make browsers obsolete with today's LLM clients is like suggesting everyone abandon websites and use Postmans to make API calls instead. It's technically possible, but far from practical or user-friendly. For certain workflows, I believe it will work very well and reduce the development lead times tremendously for engineering teams. A good case where MCP could help is complex and personalized workflows that require validation and data synthesis. For example, getting specific financial advice based on your last month's credit card spending pattern. A bad case is obviously what you're doing right now, watching a YouTube video. In essence, MCP is good for low data throughput use cases, but with a high degree of variability. You can use the large language model to intelligently define the workflow routing instead of coding every specific case yourself. While the more traditional web applications will still excel at static presentation of complex data with high semantic throughput, such as dashboards and other graphical representations, all while assuming that large language model clients stay with the chat interface in the foreseeable future. It is still the very early days of MCP, and there are challenges we need to consider and address before this pattern can become mainstream. The first and foremost challenge today is ensuring the security and privacy of MCP servers. The current example implementation of MCP typically encourages storing your user tokens as an environment variable in the JSON config file in plain text. In addition to exposure to potential hackers, this makes it hard to rotate keys and handle expiry. Not to mention that this could be potentially logged by the MCP server developers. Since there is very little barrier to entry for MCP server development, anyone could be building an MCP server today. We need to find a mechanism to evaluate the performance and security of MCP servers, from hobbyists in a garage to official releases from large enterprises. So if we fix all that, does it mean that we can convert all linear and form-based web workflows to MCP servers and let our customers perform the transactions via the LLM client instead? I'm sure the business and the product team would have their own concerns, but from a technical angle, the cost and the latency alone may not justify this change. Imagine you are operating a cafe ordering MCP system. You present the menu options to the user via ChatGPT, and they will be able to select the pretty much standard and packaged options and submit the order. There can be a very high traffic throughput for such use cases, and to be honest, not that much business value is being created in the ordering process alone. And if you decide to build your own branded LLM client and MCP, this will incur a token cost for each order. The cost of invocation will eventually decrease, but till that day, if you are selling coffee for $5 or so, it may not be worthwhile. And of course, how can we talk about GenAI solution without mentioning hallucination? In the case of MCP, it goes beyond the capabilities and accuracies of the client large language model. If MCP does become popular, it will be like mobile phone apps, and everyone will have a dozen MCP servers installed. Most of these MCP servers may have similarly named tooling declarations that can confuse the large language model and leading to the agent using the wrong tools. We will need a way for the client to differentiate and segregate the context between different MCP servers when necessary, and intelligently determine when multiple MCP servers should collaborate together. For example, if Notion, Evernote, and Google Keep all release MCP servers to allow you to take notes from Claude Desktop, they will all have a Create Note MCP tool function. The naming might differ slightly, but it may just be enough to confuse the large language model as to which MCP server tool to initiate. So, can MCP really replace front ends as we know them? Not entirely, at least not yet. But it can radically simplify how we build certain types of applications, especially those with high variability and low data throughput. It's a new way of thinking. Instead of building interfaces, we define the capabilities and let LLMs take it from there. We're still very early in the game. Challenges like security, context management, and cost all need serious attention. But if the community and major players behind LLMs invest in the right direction, MCP might just become the invisible layer powering the next generation of intelligent software. If you're a software engineer, architect, or product designer, now is the time to explore this paradigm shift. Start small, experiment, imagine what your product could look like if the interface was the AI itself. If you're working on MCP projects, drop them in the comments. I would love to hear what you're building or what you're skeptical about. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this if you think more people should start thinking about MCP. My name is Derick Chen. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.